Antidepressants are the easy way out? A therapist said that? Well, that's just that's some dirty dog. Hi, I'm Jonathan Decker, licensed therapist.
I'm Alicia Decker, CEO of Mended.
And today we are going to talk further about things that therapists have said. Comes to our attention that not all therapy is created equal and not all therapists are top shelf.
This is true.
So we polled our Mended Light community on what is the worst advice they ever got from a therapist. And today we're going to talk about, I can't believe someone actually said this, antidepressants are the easy way out. Oh boy, this is so dangerously unprofessional. I actually want the name and license number of that therapist. Why is it a harmful thing, do you think, for a therapist to say antidepressants are the easy way out? And where does that mentality come from?
Well, it's such a blanket statement, right? Depression is complex.
Yeah.
People experience depression for a vast array of reasons, and to make a blanket statement like that's the easy way out, or that's what you should do, or that's what you shouldn't do, is just oversimplifying a very complicated challenge. And
dangerous. I mean, first of all, okay, look, I'm not one to say that medication is necessary in every single circumstance, nor am I one to say, oh, well, you've got a problem here, here's some medication. But to say that antidepressants are taking the easy way out is a dangerous line of reasoning that could prevent people from getting the help that they need. Like Alicia was saying, depression has 1,000 different causes and it takes 1,000 different forms. It is not one size fits all. A lot of people with depression feel hopeless, they feel helpless, they feel worthless.
Until a little while ago, it was like nobody ever saw me. Even I didn't know if I really existed.
Some people have a hard time functioning. They can't get out of bed. They have a hard time taking a shower, getting dressed, facing the day. Other people are highly functional, and you would never know from looking at them that they are clinically depressed because they keep it all inside. Some people wish for death. They entertain suicidal thoughts or self-harm thoughts, and for other people, that's not an issue. Some people cry easily and have a hard time stopping. Some people lose interest in things that they used to enjoy. Some people feel angry and hurt and sad, and some people feel nothing at all. And for a lot of people, it's a combination of these things. You were talking about different causes. What are some reasons people might feel depressed?
Of course, you have the effects of any type of trauma, right? Whether that be some form of abuse, mental, physical, emotional, having served in a war, military experience.
Yeah.
It can also come from a chemical imbalance, right?
Yeah.
When hormones are out of balance.
Really low serotonin levels, right? It can come circumstantially. I lost somebody that I cared about, or a relationship that meant the world to me dissolved, or an opportunity or a career path or a life path is no longer before me. It can be chronic, which means that it lasts for a long time. It can be short term. There are so many different reasons that this can happen, or a combination of factors. And the fact is, depression is complex because people are complex, and our experiences are complex. And the reasons for our depression intermingle with our lives, with our relationships, with our careers, with our personality types, with our conflict resolution styles, creating something that looks very different from individual to individual. And that means that the solutions, I wouldn't say are equally complex as much as I would say that need to be individually tailored, which is why you can't say antidepressants are the easy way out. For some people, they are the only way out.
How am I supposed to get my medication now?
But I've never seen antidepressants alone do the trick. Why is that?
Well, so just as the depression is a symptom, right? It's not the root cause. We discussed it could be potentially all these other things, or a combination of them that can be the root cause. The depression itself is the symptom of that root cause. And so depending on what that root cause is, the kind of support that's needed.
Yeah, or causes, right?
Causes, yeah.
Yeah.
So along with an antidepressant being a potentially good solution, there's lots of other great solutions that often need to be combined to truly meet a person's needs.
Attack it from different angles, right?
Right. And so what you eat has a huge effect on your mental well-being. And interestingly enough, your fruits and vegetables that are yellows and oranges, they give your body the nutrition that it needs.
These happy colors, yay!
Yeah. So it's the nutrition you need if you're dealing with depression.
Yeah.
And so definitely fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, those yellows and oranges. Exercise, right? Because it increases your...
It releases endorphins into the bloodstream.
Yeah.
And it improves the heart rate. It improves your ability to think and reason. You feel better about yourself. People come to my office, and you need to get adequate rest. Not too much, not too little. People come to my office with depression, and literally the first thing that I address with them is, what are you eating? What exercise are you getting? Are you getting adequate rest? And people think, oh, my therapist thinks I'm fat.
It's funny because he's fat.
And it has nothing to do with that. It's not about body image. I tell people you need to exercise for sanity, not for vanity. Because if you are getting in a place where you're taking care of your physical self, there's such a strong link between the mind and the body. Take care of your physical self first, and let's see what's left over. For so many people, all the crap they're dealing with is minimized. There's so much less to deal with once they start taking better care of themselves. And it's hard. It's hard. I mean, it's hard when you're not depressed to get into the habit of exercise, because exercise hurts.
Pass me a biscuit.
You got another 5 miles, then you get a Luna bar.
And sleep is not as fun as staying up. And eating healthy foods, at least at first, until you develop a taste for them, you know, potato chips and junk food seem to be tasting better because it's salts and sugars and fats and stuff. But when you get into the groove of disciplining yourself to change your health, you're going to see major results in dealing with mental illness. And it's like I tell people, you can't wait until you feel better to do things.
You got to start doing things so that you can feel better.
That's right.
So you want to get a drink sometime? You want to go to the movies? You want to see people?
All of the above.
And what's more beyond that? Counseling, individual therapy, family therapy, working on relationships, working through grief, working cognitive behaviorally through negative thought patterns about yourself, about the world around you, changing your behaviors so you can change your outcomes, change what your life looks like. All of these coalesce into a helpful treatment of depression. And for some people, antidepressants are not a necessity. For other people, they absolutely are. And to say otherwise and to judge people who use them as if they were weak is some therapy, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Have you ever been given terrible advice by a therapist? Share below. We want to know. Also,
we want to know so we can roast the hell out of them.
Also, check out our video, Finding Meaning in Depression. If this video has been helpful for you, please share with someone that you know who could use it. Like, subscribe, click the bell, and remember to keep shining. We need your light.
So now that we've talked this through, and even before, frankly, what do I think about the advice that taking antidepressants is the easy way out? I think it's a whole lot